Hi, Steps.
Starter.
I'm Lasya.
And I'm Kritika, and we're your trainers from Future Steps.
Today we're going to talk about food chains. Welcome, young scientists. Today we're going to be exploring the amazing world of food chains. A food chain is like a special story that shows how all living things get their energy to grow big and strong. It's all about who eats whom in nature and how energy moves from one living thing to another. Get ready for a yummy adventure.
So the next couple slides are going to be relatable for grades 1 to 2. Producers. So producers are the food makers, the natural chefs. These are living things that can make their own food. And guess what they use to do it? Sunlight. Plants are the best example of producers. They're like the chefs of the food chain, using sunshine, water, and air to cook up their own delicious energy. An activity you can do. So, you can also be a producer. Plant some seeds in a cup with soil. Watch how the tiny plant grows using light from the sun and a little water. It's making its own food.
Now we're going to talk about the consumers. These are known as the eaters. We have three different types. We have the herbivores, the carnivores, and the omnivores. The herbivores are friendly eaters and they only eat plants. Just like cows eating fresh grass or rabbits enjoying on their carrots. They get their energy directly from the producers. And then we have the carnivores. The carnivores are the meat eaters of the food chain. Think of a powerful lion chasing a zebra or a shark swimming after fishes to eat. They get their energy by eating other animals. And then we have the omnivores. These are different because they eat both plants and meat. So examples can be bears eating berries and they also eat fish. So they eat berries, which are plants, like plants producing fruits, right? And fishes, which are meat. And we also have humans who enjoy, like us, we enjoy fruits and vegetables. Some of us, right, who are omnivores, we eat fruits and vegetables, and we also eat chicken or other meat. And these are great examples of omnivores.
Okay, so let's talk about decomposers. Decomposers are the recyclers of nature. We can also call them the cleanup crew. So, decomposers like worms, mushrooms, and tiny bacteria are nature's amazing cleanup crew. They break down dead plants and animals, making sure nothing goes to waste. Feeding the soil. As they break things down, decomposers release important nutrients back into the soil. This makes the soil rich and healthy, ready to help new producers grow. Don't forget the decomposers. These incredible organisms play an important role in our ecosystem. They make sure that all the nutrients from dead plants and animals go back into the earth, helping new life to sprout. Without them, our planet would be a very messy place. Because imagine if our planet was filled with dead plants that just wouldn't decompose. That would not be a dream. Now, an activity you could do: make a compost jar. Find a clear jar and add layers of dirt, dead leaves, and some small food scraps like apple cores or banana peels. If you can, add a few worms. Watch over a few weeks how the decomposers slowly break everything down. Remember to keep the lid loose so air can get in. Because remember, if you keep it closed, it's probably not the best idea because every living creature needs air, water, and other resources to survive on.
Now let's look at some simple food chains. So these food chains help us see who eats whom. First, we will start off with the sun, which provides us energy for all living things, including plants. And then we have the grass, which is a producer that makes its own food using sunlight, water, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and many nutrients from the soil. Then we have the grasshopper, which is an herbivore that eats the grass. Then we have a frog, which is a carnivore that eats the grasshopper. And lastly, we have a snake, which is also a carnivore that eats the frog. So see how all of this food chain is interconnected, and without one, the other won't be able to get any food source. So this shows how important a food chain is to be connected and the effects the other animals could have if one of the organism in the food chain is lost. For example, if grass of our grass is decreasing, then the number of grasshoppers and the number of frogs and eventually the number of snakes will decrease because the grass won't have any hoppers won't have any food to increase in population, and the frogs won't have any food to increase in population, and the snakes won't have any food too to increase their population. A simple food chain shows a clear path of energy from one living thing to another. It's like a straight line of who eats whom. This is a simple food chain showing how energy moves step by step. And remember that although I mentioned that, oh, the plants do relate to the animals and the living organisms do relate to one another, some of the living organisms have other sources of food that still keeps them alive.
Okay, so now let's talk about the energy flow. This is like passing down the power. So, like we talked about our food chain, our sun's our sun is the original source of almost all energy in a food chain. Producers capture the sun's energy to make their own food, and then primary consumers, which are basically herbivores, eat the producers to get energy. And then notice how the sun's energy was passed on to the producers, and once the primary consumers eat the producers, the energy is passed on to the primary consumers. And then there are the secondary consumers that are carnivores or omnivores. And these consumers eat primary consumers to get energy. So notice how the energy just passes down. Now, think of energy like a superpower being passed along. It starts with the sun, which gives energy to the producers or plants. When an animal eats a plant, some of the energy moves to the animal, and when another animal eats the animal, the energy keeps moving. But here's a cool fact: not all the energy gets passed on. Some of it is lost as heat, like when you run around and get warm. That's why there are usually fewer animals at the very top of the food chain, because there's less energy available to support a lot of them.
Everything we're going to be talking about now is going to be relatable for grades 3 to 4. Let's talk about ecosystems and how we all live together. First, we have the forest ecosystems. Here we have trees, deers, bears, birds, insects, and decomposers all living together and interacting in a forest. They share resources and contribute to the environment. Then we have ocean ecosystems. Here, fishes, sharks, whales, coral, algae, and tiny planktons from a vast underwater community live together and where each one has an important role in marine life food chains. There are other ecosystems too, but here we're going to talk about these three main important ones. Next, let's go on to the desert ecosystem. Here we have the cacti, lizards, snakes, and desert foxes that have special ways to survive and find food in this hot, dry environment, forming unique food chains. Food chains don't just happen by themselves, they are a part of something bigger called an ecosystem. An ecosystem is like a big neighborhood where all the living things, like plants, animals, and decomposers, live together with their non-living surroundings, like water, soil, and sunlight. Everything in an ecosystem just depends on everything else.
Okay, so let's talk about the top predators, known as the kings and queens. These are basically animals at the peak. They're at the very top of their food chain, and they're usually not eaten by any other animals, and they can help control populations in the ecosystem. Every kingdom has its rulers, and in the animal kingdom, top predators are like the kings and queens of their food chains. These amazing animals like lions, eagles, or sharks are at the very top because no other animals typically hunt and eat them. Top predators are super important for keeping their ecosystem healthy and balanced. By eating other animals, they help make sure that no single animal population grows too big, which keeps all the living things in the ecosystem happy and thriving.
Then we have the complex food chain, also known as the food webs. They have diverse diets. So most animals eat more than one type of food. Like, for example, us, we eat different types of fruits, vegetables, meat, and many more. So this makes our feeding habits very flexible and they're more realistic. Food webs give us a more truer picture of how energy flows in real ecosystems, unlike in simple chains. Interconnected. Food webs show how many food chains are linked together, like a giant natural network. While simple food chains are great for learning, the real world is a bit too complicated and very interesting. Most animals do not eat just one type of food. That is why we have food webs. Food webs show how a lot of different types of food chains connect and overlap with one another. It's like a giant tangled web of who eats whom, showing how everything in an ecosystem is truly linked together. And onto the side in the red color, if you can see there, that is an example of a food web. It starts with the sun, and then we have the grass, and then we have two different types or three different types of animals, right? And in one of the animal there, we have three other types of animals also eating that animal. So this shows how there's different ways in which like an organism can get food, right? There's not only one way an organism has food, there are many different ways an organism can get food and thrive in the food web.
Okay, so now let's talk about how we can protect our food chains. You've learned so much about food chains today. Now you know how important they are for all living things and for keeping our planet healthy. Every part of a food chain is special, from the tiny producers to the mighty top predators. We can all do our part to protect these amazing food chains. Remember to reduce, reuse, and recycle to help the environment. Planting trees and flowers gives more homes and food to producers and other animals. And always be kind to all living things, big or small, because every creature plays an important role in our wonderful world, especially since our world is interconnected in every aspect. So every single creature is important. And that was all we had for you today. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you have any comments, any concerns, or any questions, comment down below. We will meet you in our next video. Goodbye.
Bye, Stepsters.